So before we go on to modern day applications of linseed paint, let's have just a very brief look at the history. It can be traced all the way back to ancient Egypt, and it was the paint and oil of choice really all the way through to the Second World War. And what happened in the Second World War, because of the enormous war effort, there was this vast waste mountain of plastic and acrylics, which some clever people decided actually you can turn into paint. Now, and after the Second World, there was this enormous drive for modern materials anyway. Everything had to be glass, steel, concrete, plastics. That was the future. Now, fast forward to the 1980s, and we actually discover that all these plastics perhaps didn't deliver quite on their promise. And you can see in a lot of old buildings where modern plastic materials were introduced, they started to fail. So a lot of rotting timber, a lot of problems with damp and old buildings. What we now, knowing that and going back, actually if we start to apply linseed paint again in old buildings, we can rehabilitate these projects, because actually what you can see is that the surface tension of linseed oil is so much lower than that of water that it penetrates deeper into the substrate, into the timber, than water will ever get to. So it protects it from the outside, but even if water gets in, and this is where it gets really exciting, is even if water gets in behind the paint, it will let it wick out through to the surface. Now what we do with all of our paint, we add zinc white, which is a perfectly acceptable pigment in its own right, but it has the added benefit of preventing mold growth, which is great. So what we're going to do in the next video is just have a look at why we should be using it now, on top of the reasons that I've already mentioned.